Hey guys, this is Matt with BleepinJeep.com. Right here next to me I've got all of the spare parts that you should be carrying out on the trail. Now these aren't tools, these are only spare parts. If you're looking for tools, I've got another video on that. Just click that link right over there and check it out. But these are just spare parts. We'll go over them in just a minute. But first, check out the website, BleepinJeep.com. We've got all the best off-road videos on YouTube, none of the boring stuff. We've also got t-shirts and hats, and we've got discount codes and coupons for all of the parts that you need. Also, don't forget to subscribe right up here. Check out the Facebook page as well. Alright, so come over here and I'll show you these parts. Now I don't literally carry all of these parts with me all of the time, but I do carry most of them. It's your rig, and it really depends on how you wheel as to what you're going to carry. Now, as a hardcore wheeler, you would think that you would carry more parts, but in actuality, when you trailer your rig, you tend to stay closer to the trailer, closer to the rig, and you tend to carry less parts, because if you break, you're always with some friends, and you just tow yourself back to the trailer, put it on, and go home. But if you are more of an adventurer, then you're probably going to need to carry more parts. And I have a pretty comprehensive list here. Let's get started right here in this box. Let me zoom in. Alright, once again, this is not a list of tools, just a list of spare parts. And now I do have a couple of accidental tools in here, but let's go over this real quick. You always want to carry some zip ties with you. You always want to carry extra fuses in case you may need to replace one of those. Now you also want to carry extra nuts and bolts. This is just an assortment here. I really should have more than this. I need some bigger and longer bolts here. Now this one right here is for the upper and lower control arms. That's 10 millimeter. Having a stick of JB weld is always a good idea. And right here I've got some Loctite, stuff like that. That's more of tools. But right here I've got some U-joint straps and that kind of thing. Castle nuts are in there. And let's see, U-joint straps and U-joint bolts. And then right here I've got some hub nuts and the washers that go along with it. And then right here I've got some lug nuts. I always want to carry a spare set of those. And right here I've just got some O-rings. Now you always want to carry some extra relays. You might need those on occasion. I've also got some extra sensors that may go bad or something like that. I also have a rotor button here. You could carry the cap and the rotor if you wanted to. Right here I've got a thermostat, and it's always good to have baling wire. And you always want to have your U-joints, whether it be a drive shaft U-joint or an axle shaft U-joint. You want to carry all of your U-joints, and you want to carry your tie rod ends, your left and right tie rod ends, and whatever other tie rod ends that you may have. And I also carry an oil filter. One time a buddy punctured an oil filter. There were like 10 Jeeps. None of us had an oil filter, and we couldn't go anywhere for about 5 hours because of that. So carry an extra oil filter, and carry a yoke. I always carry a yoke because sometimes those will break off, and you never know when you're going to need a yoke. Also, I carry a couple spark plugs in there just in case. Now let's move up here. Now this is kind of an obvious one, but of course you want to carry a spare tire and wheel with you. And it always makes sense to carry a drive belt. Whatever drive belts you need, I just have one, so just got one of those. Now of course you're going to want to carry extra axle shafts. Those tend to break quite often, depending on what kind of axle you have. This is 2 front axle shafts for my Dana 30. Those do break sometimes, and also, if you have a Dana 35, you're going to want to carry your rear axle shafts, or just depending on your wheeling style. Dana 35s break very often, and if you've got something heavier, it just depends on your wheeling style whether you're going to carry the rear axle shafts or not. Now, I also carry an idler pulley. Those tend to go bad quicker than the others. And right here I've got a gearbox brace. This is a little bracket that goes behind your steering gearbox, and if that breaks, then your gearbox isn't going to work because it'll be moving around in there. So I carry an extra one of those. Now, you also want to carry wire. It's always good to have multiple gauges of wire just to troubleshoot electrical issues or to replace wires. And I carry a little bit of extension cord in there as well. It's got 3 wires in it. Now you also want to carry some tubing, usually some fuel line or some heater tubing. And then I also carry a hub. You never know whenever your hub might go out, and so it's a good idea to carry at least one of those. And then we've also got an auxiliary fan here. Now when those go out, your engine is going to overheat, so just carry an auxiliary fan with you at all times. Alright, let's move over here a little ways. Alright, right here we've got U-bolts for your rear axle. You never know when you might need those. One time I was running aluminum blocks when I first started wheeling, and I broke the aluminum blocks, and all I had were the long U-bolts, and so we had to stick a 2x4 under there, which worked, but if I would have had short U-bolts with me, we could have just replaced those. So always carry some extra rear axle U-bolts with you. And then you're going to want to carry all of your fluids. Now, you should probably carry more transmission fluid and oil than this, but this is just an example. You want power steering fluid, transmission fluid, motor oil, antifreeze, gear oil, and brake fluid, and maybe some clutch fluid or whatever other kind of fluids you may need. Now these last few things here I don't usually carry with me, but you could if you wanted to. We've got the crankshaft position sensor right there. If that goes out, you're not going to be going anywhere, so you might want to carry an extra one of those. I've got a solenoid here. Usually don't have any problems with those, but you can carry an extra one of those if you want. We've got the coil here. Like the crankshaft position sensor, if your coil goes bad, you're not going to be moving, so you might want to carry an extra one of those. And any computers that you have, if you get a chance, go by the junkyard, pick up an extra computer, because once again, if those go bad, you're going to be a sitting duck. Now, drive shafts, I don't usually have a problem with those, knock on wood, but if you want, or if you have problems or are prone to breaking your drive shafts, go ahead and stick in a front or a rear drive shaft, or both, in your set of tools or your spare parts. Also, we've got a starter here and an alternator. I don't ever carry those, but you may want to if you're going out on a long range trip and you're not going to be within range of a store or some kind of repair shop. Alright, so I went over everything I have here, but there's a few more things that I don't have that I'd like to talk to you about, and that is brake lines. You never know when you might need an extra brake line. How about a radiator hose? If you puncture your radiator hose, that would be pretty bad, and you'd need a lot of extra coolant, and either an extra radiator hose or perhaps just a pipe just to stick in there with some hose clamps to repair it. How about valve stems? You might need some of those, or a pitman arm. How about steering linkage? If you're prone to bending your tie rod, maybe you want a whole steering linkage to throw in the back. And the last thing is a fuel pump. You might lose your fuel pump. In that case, you'd be a sitting duck once again. So go ahead and stick in a fuel pump if you think you might need it. Alright guys, don't forget to subscribe right here. And check out the Facebook page and the website, BleepinJeep.com. We've got all the best off-road videos on YouTube, none of the boring stuff. And we've also got hats, t-shirts, and discount coupon codes for all your off-road needs. Now, if you have any suggestions as to parts that I missed, please leave those in the comments below. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.